Okay, ladies and gentlemen, here is part two of the advice I would like to leave you with as you rewrite your essays. This concerns the clunky inclusion of historiography. What do I mean by the clunky inclusion of historiography? As I mentioned earlier, a lot of students were providing me with essays that started off with an introduction, usually with a conditional weak thesis, then a body paragraph with some historical stuff, a second body paragraph with some more historical stuff, this evidence, and then a third body paragraph that out of the blue will say something like, analyzing both wars through different perspectives, such as the great men and Marxist perspectives, blah, 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 blah. No connection to the overall argument, no transition, it just kind of lumped in there. This student is clearly saying, well, I'm required to incorporate historiography. Mr. T won't give me full points unless I do. Here we go. We need to work on developing how the historiography is fit into the overall essay. An example from a senior, fourth paragraph out of the blue. A historian with the analyst perspective would not attribute much significance to the Great Depression in U.S. Latin American affairs. Same problem as the first, just comes out of nowhere, not really connected to the overall thesis. But even worse, he narrowly defines this historian as if this historian will only look at geography. This was an economic issue, therefore an analysis historian will not be interested. So he goes on to draw, like some illogical conclusions. At the moment, the US was mainly concerned with recovering its economy. Therefore, the geographic position of Cuba and El Salvador were not greatly important. It doesn't work because an analysis historian will think economy is important. It also doesn't work because this writer is suggesting that economy and geography aren't connected. These conclusions don't work. It is possible that due to this anonymous student's narrow focus on subjects like, for example, physics, he may not be able to handle the gray, complex, sophisticated analysis of history that others of us are. He's still looking for black and white, kind of physics type answers. That doesn't work in the real world. So, what are the issues? Number one, the checklist approach to adding historiography that we saw. Boom, here it comes in the third paragraph, ready or not. Next, that misconception that historians with a certain perspective will draw conclusions only based in that perspective, like calculators in a sense. So, you get this thought that I am an analysis historian, I think geography is key, thus the Great Depression is not important. That's not going to work. And then if you take it further, the US, sorry about the typo, was focused on recovering its economy. Therefore, the geography of Cuba and El Salvador was not greatly important. You can see how that leads to misconceptions and poor conclusions. And of course, that student that I made a joke about, the anonymous student, is very intelligent, but he is narrowly defining the historical perspective. You don't have to do that. Historians aren't idiots, no matter what that student thinks. What is the remedy? First off, integrate historiography thoughtfully in proper transitions. This is a matter not only of fitting it into the argument, but using the correct wording to have it make sense in the overall flow of the essay. Also, don't assume that a particular historiographical perspective determines historians' conclusions decisively, completely, and narrowly. So, good examples from Stefania Bonetti. As U.S. Latin American relations were heavily influenced by great men, it is important to consider a great man perspective on the topic. Very nice, very smooth. The juniors who saw 13 Days know that, yes, absolutely, this is important. Many historians have focused on the roles played by Castro, Kennedy, Khrushchev. So it makes sense to look at it from a great man perspective. This was very nicely added in. Not very sophisticated, doesn't require a lot of magic, but very well done. This helps Stefani's essay quite a bit. Another good example from Stefanos. It is Steph and Steph with the good examples today. World systems theory can also be applied to this instance, as the US simply wanted to maintain a core periphery relationship with Cuba, as they had in the 19th century with the sugar industry. Very good, clear, organic inclusion. He strengthens it and reinforces it with that kind of like precedent example of the 19th century. This works very well. And Stefanos actually had already talked about the great men theory very well. I didn't include it because that was Stefania's example as well. And then he spends the rest of this paragraph providing evidence, supporting and reinforcing his inclusion, his choice to analyze this particular event, or this series of events really, through world systems theory. So again, just like with the thesis statements before, look at these examples, hit play and pause, use them as examples when recreating your own use of historiography. Good luck.